Astrologian is one of the more confusing jobs out of the 4 different healers Final Fantasy XIV have available. And considering the effort it takes to acquire this class, it might be the last healer class you unlock. That's why I'm making it my first video guide, so you can come back and watch it later. In all seriousness though, Astrologian is an easy, straightforward class. From my experience at least, especially once you get used to its class mechanics. Speaking of class mechanics, my name is Kawago and today we'll talk about Astrologian and how great it is. Let's get this started, shall we? First off, we'll talk about the most important bread and butter of each class in this game, and that is DPS. Now, I know as healers, we have to heal the party, and that is true, but the best way to heal in this game is to actually harm the enemies. I mean, dead enemies do no DPS. With that said, Astrologian has 3 DPS skills that are going to be used regularly, and 1 DPS skill that is pretty random to say the least. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Malefic is your single target DPS skill. It starts off as Malefic at level 1 and upgrades at certain levels until it becomes Fall Malefic at level 82, dealing 250 potency for 400 MP. This is going to be your main form of damage for most of the duties in the game. Get comfortable pressing this button over and over again. This class also has a damage over time skill in the form of Combust. It is a 30-second instant cast dot that is helpful for movement should the need arise. Just like Malefic, Combust upgrades as you level up. Last but not least, we have Gravity and its upgrade at level 82, Gravity 2, which is Astrologian's AoE DPS skill, dealing 130 potency damage to all enemies that it hits. Because this is an AoE, you'll probably be using this more during dungeon runs instead of extreme trials and savage raids, but it ultimately ends up how the fight goes for the last 2. The rule of thumb is, if there is more than 1 enemy in your screen, use your AoE. Please use your AoE. Moving forward to the healing skills. For single target healing, the first one available to you is Benefic, a single target GCD heal with a 500 potency for 400 MP. There's also an added effect, 15% chance to proc that the next Benefic 2 will be a critical heal. But it's so low that people really don't bother with it. Next, we have Essential Dignity, a single target OGCD heal at level 15. It starts off with 400 potency, but increases in power the lower the target's HP is, up to 900 potency. This is the closest equivalent that Astrologian has to Benediction, and an overall strong single target healing for tank busters. On top of that, once you reach level 78, you get 2 charges of Essential Dignity, 1 for each tank in your party. Then, at level 26, you learn Benefic 2 for an 800 potency heal for 700 MP. This is just a straight upgrade from Benefic 1, and there really hasn't changed anything other than just an increase in potency heal and an increase in MP consumption. So overall, pretty solid single target healing. Then at level 34, we get our first regen healing spell, Aspected Benefic. It has a healing potency of 250 that adds a 15-second regen with 250 potency each. For the whole duration of the skill, it heals for a total of 1500 potency altogether. The next one is a bit of a jump, unlocking at level 74, which is Celestial Intersection. The main appeal of this skill is that while it only heals for 200 potency, it does give the target a shield based on 200% of the HP that it heals. This is a really great partner to Aspected Benefic, mostly because on top of the regen that Aspected Benefic gives, this also minimizes the damage with the shield that it gives. Moving on to AoE healing. The first AoE healing that Astrologian unlocks is at level 10, with Helios, for a 400 potency heal, only costing 700 MP. It's pretty basic and nothing spectacular going, just a basic GCD AoE healing. Then at level 42, you learn Aspected Helios, the first AoE regen skill you unlock. It heals for 250 potency with 150 regen for 15 seconds. For one person, that totals up to 1000 potency altogether, for only the low price of 800 MP. This is probably going to be the most used GCD AoE healing that you have, because it also works with another ability further down the line. Other than that, because it is a GCD, it is more accessible than the other healing skills that we have on this list. Celestial Opposition is your level 60 capstone ability. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's an OGCD AoE healing for 200 potency and 100 potency regen for 15 seconds. Altogether, with the regen healing, the potency totals up to 700 potency. It's similar to a Benefic 2 heal for everyone that gets it for no extra shipping and handling cost. Now, in my last video, which Final Fantasy XIV healer is for you, I talked about one of Astrologian's healing mechanic, which I called delayed healing. The next couple healing skills I'm going to mention has to do with the proactive healer playstyle. At level 62, you unlock one of the strongest AoE healing with Earthly Star. This skill is basically an arena-wide AoE heal with a potency of 540 for the first 10 seconds, then it grows into a stronger heal with a 720 potency for another 10 seconds. Alongside the big AoE healing that it does, it also deals damage to every enemy inside it for 310 potency. This is one of the best examples for preempted healing with Astrologian. The next delayed healing skill is Horoscope at level 76. Initially, this skill grants everyone within range the Horoscope buff, which lasts for 10 seconds. After the 10 seconds pass, it will heal everyone for 200 potency. An added effect to this skill is that if you use Helios or expected Helios while everyone has the Horoscope buff, then the buff will be upgraded to Horoscope Helios and increases the potency from 200 to 400, and also extends the duration of the buff to 30 seconds. This is the skill that I was talking about when I mentioned earlier that you'll probably be using expected Helios more often than not. And the 400 potency is nothing to laugh at. It is a pretty strong healing skill. The last AoE healing you'll acquire is your level 90 capstone ability, Macrocosmos. This skill deals 250 potency damage. On top of that, it also applies Macrocosmos to everyone in the vicinity. What this buff does is, alongside the flat 200 potency heal, 50% of all damage done to you and your party members are recorded and turned into HP healing when the effect expires or when you activate it early, whichever comes first. There is one more AoE healing skill, but I'll explain that in the next section. The next set of skills we're going to talk about is primarily linked to your job mechanic. Draw, Undraw, and Play gets unlocked at level 30. Before I talk more about this, I want to stress out that Undraw is a useless skill and should not, I repeat, should not be in your hotbars whatsoever. It doesn't benefit you in any way, and I honestly feel like it should be deleted. Draw and Play is going to be the bread and butter when it comes to using your cards to help the party. Draw pulls a random card from 6 possibilities, and Play is how you activated the cards to trigger its effects. Redraw unlocks at level 40 and is primarily used to change your currently drawn card. This will be more useful to you as you gain more levels, but depending on the party members you get on roulettes, it could be beneficial to try and redraw for a card that matches the class of your party members. At level 50, Astrodyne and Divination becomes available. These two are your level 50 capstone abilities and pretty much rounds out Astrologian's job mechanics. Divination is more straightforward than Astrodyne. It's just a single press and everyone nearby gets a 6% damage buff for 15 seconds. Astrodyne, however, deals more with the cards you pull from draw. At level 50, your cards get one of 3 insignias: Solar, Lunar, and Celestial. When you acquire 3 of these signs, it doesn't matter which one you have, Astrodyne will give you different buffs depending on the ones you have. If you have 3 of the same signs, you get a 50 potency MP regen. 2 of the same gives you an MP regen and a 10% reduction on your timers. And if you have one of each insignia, you get a 5% damage and healing potency increase on top of the other two effects. Now, this is where the cards get confusing, so I'll try my best to explain. Draw gives you one of 6 different cards. The main aspect of the card that you'll be looking at is the border. A blue border signifies melee DPS and tanks, while a purple border signifies range DPS, caster DPS, and healers. Once you get the insignias on each card, they're given one of 3 signs: solar, lunar, and celestial, as I have mentioned before. Each insignia will have a melee card and a range card. So, to make it simple, check the insignia on your card. If you do not have this sign, then you'll be needing to use this card. Next, check on the border of the card. That's the DPS who will receive the buff. Now, if you have the same sign as the one before, use redraw. If it's the same sign as the other one that you have, then too bad, and Jesus didn't bless you at all. But overall, the goal is to always have 3 insignias. The cards are just distributed depending on which DPS it will give a stronger boost from. Minor Arcana is your level 70 capstone ability. This is the skill that I've been mentioning in the video before. It does one of 2 things. Once used, it can be a Lord of Crowns, which is a 250 potency AoE damage skill, essentially becoming the 4th DPS skill I mentioned in the beginning of this video. The other possibility is that it can become a Lady of Crowns, a 400 potency AoE healing skill, essentially becoming a potential AoE healing skill that I mentioned earlier. The skill is random and you have a 50-50 chance to get either one. So because of its randomness, I didn't include it in the past 2 sections. On top of that, it doesn't really benefit you other than having an extra heal or an extra damage. So use it as it goes. Lastly, we have utility skills. The first utility skill you get is Lightspeed at level 6. This reduces cast times for spells by 2.5 seconds. This basically guarantees that all your GCD skills will become instant, and when push comes to shove, it can also reduce Ascend's cast time to 5 seconds, which is still a long cast, but every second counts, especially in a raid setting. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Ascend is your resurrection skill acquired at level 12. This skill has a cast time of 8 seconds, unless you have Swift Cast. But other than that, Lightspeed can help alleviate with how long it takes to revive your party members. This skill will only be used pretty much when someone dies or something unexpected happens, so it's not going to be a skill that you're going to be using most of the time. Now, Sinistry is a pretty niche ability you unlock at level 50. It's a buff that you give to another party member that will heal them for 40% of whatever single target healing you use, whether to the same person or another. There isn't much use for this ability. Personally, I only use this to heal through Living Dead, or if I have to focus on healing a tank because of so many tank busters coming in left and right, especially for this tier of raids. Keep in mind that this only affects spells, so you're only limited to Benefic 1 and 2 as well as Aspected Benefic. So, like I said, pretty niche ability. The next utility skill you have is a mitigation tool that you get, Collective Unconscious at level 58. This is similar to Sacred Soil or Terracoli in that it mitigates 10% of damage and applies a regen. The difference is that AST has to continually cast it in order to receive the 10% mitigation, but the regen is an applied buff that stays for 15 seconds after the skill is done. One thing I noticed though is that the mitigation buff will last a few seconds even after you finish the animation. So most ASC just flashes this skill for a split second so that they don't get stuck in one place for too long. Neutral Sec is your level 80 capstone ability. This skill increases healing magic potency by 20% for 20 seconds. It's a pretty hefty buff. Another added effect that this skill has is the addition of shields for your aspected healing skills. The shields provided by Neutral Sect also stacks with shields from Scholars and Sages, so it's really helpful when you're taking a lot of damage. On top of that, every other healing skill or healing ability that you have gets its healing skill increased. Last but not least, Exaltation is the last utility skill that Astrologian has. Unlocked at level 76, Exaltation is Astrologian's answer to Tank Busters. It mitigates 10% of the damage received for 10 seconds, and adds a heal to the target after the effect expires for 500 potency. Astrologian is one of the pure healers in the game, alongside White Mage. Its primary gameplay involves managing party buffs with its card system, while also balancing healing and personal DPS. This inherently makes the class busier than White Mage. Astrologian also boasts some of the most powerful AoE healing in the game, with Earthly Star pretty much covering the entire arena, and Macrocosmos, which, with proper timing, could act as a party-wide benediction. Besides these, the class also comes equipped with party utility with its card system, increasing damage for one party member to just straight up buffing themselves and the entire party. Overall, Astrologian are reliable healers. It may be the weakest among healers, but damage-wise, but the utility it brings to the party is undeniable. If you trust your team and they do amazingly well with mechanics and uptime, then Astrologian will absolutely shine. I hope that this video guide has helped you understand how Astrologian work, and has persuaded you to try it as your next healer class to play. It really is a confusing job in the beginning, but the more you play the job, the easier the job mechanics become. As always, please like, share, and subscribe if you find this video helpful or entertaining. Once again, my name is Kawago, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya!